Maritime transport is the most important logistics method in international trade. Due to its low cost, large capacity, and high efficiency, maritime transport has become an indispensable part of cross-border trade. It connects producers and consumers around the world, facilitates the global circulation of goods and services, and drives the continuous growth of international trade. According to statistics, more than 90% of global trade goods are currently transported by sea. Besides a few well-known maritime trading nations, Canada has also emerged as an important player in global maritime trade, thanks to its vast coastline, ice-free ports, and strategic location. Additionally, the strategic resources in the Arctic region may help Canada become one of the world's leading maritime trading nations. At this point, you may wonder why the Arctic is such an essential region in maritime trade. As the northernmost area on Earth, the Arctic serves as a crucial maritime traffic route connecting Europe, Asia, and North America. The distance from the Arctic to any region in the Northern Hemisphere is the shortest, making it a strategically important area in military terms, as missiles launched from the Arctic Ocean can cover almost the entire Northern Hemisphere. The Arctic encompasses the vast Arctic Ocean and its surrounding seas, extending to the borders of multiple countries. In this unique region, Canada stands out with its vast Arctic territory, including the Northwest Territories, Nunavut, Yukon, and Northern Provinces, forming the heart of Canada's Arctic region, home to approximately 150,000 residents with Indigenous communities playing a dominant role. Additionally, the Arctic region includes Denmark's Greenland, Finland's Lapland, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, and territories of several other countries. Russia, the most populous country in the Arctic region, has an estimated 2.5 million residents living there. This vast country spans multiple administrative regions and islands, with a long Arctic coastline. The United States, after Alaska joined its territory in 1867, officially became an Arctic nation. The North Slope Borough, Northwest Arctic Borough, and other areas witnessed the diverse interests of the U.S. in this region, particularly the increasingly prominent value of maritime trade. Most importantly, the Arctic region has opened up new shipping routes, the Arctic Sea routes. Notably, the Northeast Passage and the Northwest Passage have become increasingly navigable due to climate change. As ice caps recede, these routes have become new international shipping lanes, significantly shortening the voyage from Europe to Asia. In fact, both Canada and Russia have close ties to these Arctic sea routes. Canada's Arctic region is directly linked to the Northwest Passage, with most of the route passing through the waters of the Canadian Arctic archipelago. Starting from the Bering Strait, it runs eastward along the offshore waters of Alaska, USA, through the Canadian Arctic archipelago, to the Davis Strait. As the route enters the Canadian Arctic archipelago through the Beaufort Sea, it splits into two main branches, one passing through Amundsen Gulf, Dauphin and Union Strait, and Victoria Strait to Lancaster Sound. The other passing through McClure Strait, Viscount Melville Sound, and Barrow Strait to Lancaster Sound. The other major route is the Northeast Passage, also known as the Northern Sea Route. Most of this route lies in the offshore waters of the Arctic Ocean along Russia's northern coast. It begins in northern Europe, passing eastward through the Barents Sea, Kara Sea, Laptov Sea, East Siberian Sea, and Chukchi Sea until it reaches the Bering Strait. This route crosses the eastern part of the Arctic Ocean, connecting the northern regions of Europe, Asia, and North America. There are 58 straits linking the 5 major seas along this route, with the most significant ones being the Bering Strait and Denmark Strait. Since the Northeast Passage passes along the Russian coast, all ships passing through must first pay a toll to Russia. Over the decades, disputes over the Arctic sea routes have been intense. From the Soviet Union to Russia, the Northeast Passage has been regarded as a domestic transportation line, while the United States, Norway, and Sweden have consistently insisted on international passage rights. Of course, the Northwest Passage has similar disputes. Russia hopes that this Arctic sea route will become a strong competitor to the Suez Canal during the summer, as the Northwest Passage can avoid temperature impacts and allow smoother passage. For Russia, the development of the Northeast Passage is of utmost importance. It not only helps Russia diversify its energy exports, reducing dependence on the European market, but also enhances its influence in the Arctic region. However, the development and utilization of the Arctic sea routes are not exclusive to Russia. Canada also holds an important strategic position. Compared to traditional routes, the Arctic sea routes can significantly shorten the journey between Eurasia and North America, saving time and costs while avoiding pirate-infested and geopolitically complex areas, thus improving the safety and efficiency of maritime transport. A set of data can help us understand the growth trend of maritime traffic activity in the Arctic region. From 2013 to 2019, the number of single ships entering the Arctic region increased by 25%, with a particularly notable rise in Canada's Arctic region. The sharp increase in fishing and cargo ship traffic is especially striking. From 2009 to 2019, fishing vessel traffic grew by 106.2%, while cargo ship traffic surged by 122%. As global warming melts the ice and snow in the Arctic region, the commercial value of Arctic routes is becoming increasingly evident. Whoever controls the Arctic region may hold a favorable position in the future global trade and strategic landscape. However, at present, Canada may emerge as the dominant nation in the Arctic region, possessing control over the Northwest Passage, precisely because this passage crosses its territory. As global warming continues, the Arctic glaciers gradually melt, extending the navigable season for the Northwest Passage and enhancing its commercial value. Canada has enacted strict laws and regulations to manage and charge ships passing through its territorial waters and exclusive economic zone, undoubtedly weakening Russia's competitiveness on Arctic routes. Moreover, Canada has actively strengthened its military presence in the Arctic region, including building military bases and deploying patrol ships to protect its sovereignty and interests in the area. These moves directly threaten Russia, intensifying competition and confrontation between the two countries in the Arctic. Geographically, Canada is located in the northern part of North America, bordered by the Atlantic Ocean to the east, the Pacific Ocean to the west, and the Arctic Ocean to the north, giving it a highly advantageous position. Its vast territory not only provides Canada with abundant natural resources, but also grants it significant strategic importance in geopolitics. Particularly in the Arctic region, Canada has extensive territories and an exclusive economic zone, giving it substantial influence and a strong voice in Arctic affairs, forming a direct competitive relationship with Russia in the region. On one hand, Canada's presence diminishes Russia's influence in the Arctic region, limiting its expansion and hegemonic behavior. On the other hand, Canada, by strengthening its military and economic presence in the Arctic, further consolidates its position in the region, posing a direct threat to Russia. In addition, Canada actively seeks cooperation with other Arctic nations to jointly develop Arctic resources and improve the Arctic governance system. These efforts not only enhance Canada's voice in Arctic affairs, but also weaken Russia's dominance in the region. For Russia, this is undoubtedly a significant challenge and threat. The Arctic Sea Route is an important maritime passage connecting Asia, North America, and Europe. If Canada strengthens control over this route or imposes navigation restrictions, it could inconvenience Russian vessels relying on the Arctic Sea Route for trade. Although the United States is also an Arctic nation, its direct control over the Arctic route is not as significant as Canada's. After all, Canada has the longest coastline in the world and ports in the Atlantic, Pacific, and Arctic Oceans, as well as in the Great Lakes. In 2022 alone, maritime trade directly created nearly 30,000 jobs, contributing $345 billion in value. This figure means that Canada accounts for 23% of the world's total international trade. In the same year, ports and marine transportation brought Canada a total import value of $194 billion, while exports amounted to $151 billion. That year, the Canadian port authorities handled nearly 340 million tons of cargo. Even with these figures, the maritime sector still has more untapped potential. Controlling over 1.35 million square miles of Arctic territory, Canada clearly sees the Arctic region as key to unlocking this potential. With the opening of the Northwest Passage, Canada could stimulate its historically underdeveloped northern regions. Additionally, if a significant amount of global maritime traffic passes through this route, these regions could quickly become important hubs for transportation, trade, and logistics, driving population growth. Furthermore, As a traditional ally of the United States, Canada's foreign policy often aligns with that of the US. However, in certain situations, Canada may take a more independent stance due to its national interests or geopolitical considerations, which could pose a challenge to Russia. While the US is one of the primary forces behind sanctions against Russia, Canada has also actively participated in these sanctions. Canada may exert pressure on Russia by restricting trade, freezing Russian assets, or taking other economic measures. These sanctions could impact Russia's economy, especially in critical sectors like energy and minerals. In recent years, attitudes towards Russia and Canada have hardened, with some members of the public and political figures holding hostile views. This social atmosphere may lead the Canadian government to adopt a tougher stance on Russia. In contrast, while the US also has criticisms and sanctions against Russia, its domestic political and social environment may be more complex and diverse. Additionally, it should be noted that the Arctic Ocean is covered by thick ice layers throughout most of the year, providing natural concealment and protection for strategic nuclear submarines and other military assets, offering significant military deterrence. Both Canada and Russia have increased their military presence in the Arctic region. Russia has re-established military bases and expanded its military activities in the Arctic to protect its interests in this strategic area. Meanwhile, Canada is also boosting its Arctic military capabilities, including enhancing patrol and monitoring capabilities to maintain its territorial integrity and security. But you should be aware that if Canada gains full control of the Arctic route, it might receive assistance from the US Navy. Is that the outcome you desire?